law school. This is the free astrotheology course. Let's pick back up where we left off in the last class, which is Freemasonry on page 246. All right. And I think this is really, very important information, and I'll say why. Because 99% of all of the pastors and reverends, all the religious leaders, 99% of them are Freemasons. And I think most people who are familiar with this topic are aware of this. Most people are aware of it. But there are different degrees according to what this author is telling us in this book. And depending on the degree you're at, that determines how much you know about the true origin and meaning of the Gospels. Y'all hear me? So, that being the case, your pastor, your reverend, your captain, your general, etc., all your clergymen are Freemasons until proven otherwise. The only issue is, what degree are they? What do they know? Why do you want to know that? Because that will tell you the extent to which they have been lying to you, robbing you. Now, I took some notes. The author on page 249, he lists several of the degrees. So the degrees are like college degrees. For example, associate degree, bachelor's degree, master's degree, PhD, and then of course there are specialties and subspecialties. Okay? And there are a lot of degrees. So here are some of them that the author mentions, from the lowest to the highest degree. And this doesn't mean that it's everything. Doesn't mean that it's all of the degrees. It's just the degrees that the author mentioned. And remember, this is in 1831, so almost 200 years ago. So the lowest degree is a Christian, or the Christian degree. The next degree, the next lowest degree, is Israelite. So the Israelite degree. The next lowest degree is the Jew degree. The next lowest degree is the Hebrew degree. And then the author has that there are others. Others that you have to obtain before you can cross over the middle wall of partition. Before you can cross over the middle wall of partition. Okay? That has to do with the temple, right? The middle wall of partition. So the next lowest degree. Now remember, we're going from lowest to the highest degree. So the next degree is Hebrew of the Hebrews degree. The next degree is the martyrers degree, which is also called witnesses. Okay, and it makes me wonder if the Jehovah's Witness organization, if Charles Taze Russell or whoever were involved in that, whatever group that was, whether they were at the degree, whether their degree was rather martyrers or witnesses. Now, if you listen to Jordan Maxwell teaches, and he has evidence to support that Jehovah's Witnesses and other religious organizations like that were created by the intelligence agencies. The one I remember is the one in the UK. So what does that tell you, scholars? An intelligence agency created the doctrine amongst other groups to create what we know as the Jehovah's Witnesses. What does that tell you? Why would a government create a religion? Why would an intelligence agency be involved in that? And how is it that they happen to have expertise in religious doctrine such that they could create a distinctive religion, and a religion that would go out seeking to recruit people based upon the Great Tribulation and Armageddon? And the effect of that would be to pull people out of the political process. Why would they do that? Why would they have that expertise? I'll let y'all decide that, but that's a very important question. I don't remember the name of the video, but if y'all watch Jordan Maxwell's videos, you can get that information. Okay, so now the next level is autops, the autops degree. The next, now we're moving from lowest to highest, the prophets, who are also called the tellers. So the prophets, secret societies have a degree called the prophets. The prophets. Now, you'll note, y'all watched the video that I did with Sonetta, all Abrahamic religions are a hoax or a fraud or something like that. You'll note that in the prophets' writings, there are Jeremiah 8:8 occurrences. In other words, lies, edits that include prophecy about a coming Messiah. Okay, now in that video, I actually demonstrate that those are actually lies. Jeremiah 8:8 occurrences that were written into the scripture. If not the whole book, I don't know. I wasn't there. But definitely all of Maccabees, definitely the writings of Josephus, which was used to justify the New Testament when it was initially introduced, the writings of Josephus. The next degree is the saints. Okay, the next degree is the saints. The next degree, the highest degree, is the apostles. The apostles' degree. Now, above the apostles' degree, that degree is called the chief cornerstone. And of course, that's Jesus the Christ figure. Now, I got all of that on page 249. So y'all can go review that, okay, if you want to know more about that. But the issue is, where is your pastor? Which degree does your pastor have? Has your pastor passed over or crossed over the middle wall of partition, as in Hebrew? The meaning of Hebrew that we get in religion, those who passed over, or those who crossed over the river, those who passed over or crossed over the middle wall of partition. These would be men who are selected, right? Remember? These are men who are selected, chosen men who are referred to as perfect men. And when they get invited into those degrees, they find out, they are taught that the Gospels are astrotheology. That it's all mythology, fairy tales. Jesus never lived or breathed or walked on the planet Earth. Okay? So, which degree does your pastor have? Why don't you go ask him or her? See what kind of response you get. Okay? See if they tell you the truth. All right, so now let's pick back up on page 245. Page 245, the first paragraph. Let's begin there, okay, yo? The celebrated cavalier Ramsay has labored to prove that order of cavalry, the learned A. Darrell. Hold on, y'all. I gotta research these names. I meant to do it, but I forgot. I want to research these names. All right. So Cavalier Ramsay has labored to prove that Freemasonry arose during the Crusades. Y'all hear that? Freemasonry arose during the Crusades. In other words, if you were here for the class before this one, you would have learned, you would have saw the evidence, rather, that Freemasonry is ancient, but the hybrids hijacked Freemasonry. Right? Y'all remember? When the hybrids began to attack the Moors? Y'all remember that? All of that in the Middle Ages? This is what the author is talking about. So this celebrated Cavalier Ramsay has labored to prove that Freemasonry arose or was hijacked during the Crusades. And was only a secondary order of chivalry. The learned Abe Darrell-El supposed it to be a continuation of the Society of the Knights Templars. Okay, so there are two theories. One from Chevalier Ramsay saying that Freemasonry was hijacked during the Crusades. The second theory is from A. Darrell-El, who theorized that Freemasonry is a continuation of the Society of the Knights Templars. Okay? So, a continuation is more in line with what I'm proposing, is that it was hijacked. All right? Masonry is ancient, but it was hijacked. So therefore, according to this A. Darrell, it's a continuation of the Society of Knights Templars. All right, y'all? Now, y'all know that Knights Templars were, if y'all remember the lecture on where we covered the Knights Templars, they're responsible for banking, finance, and there's one more, banking, finance. Well, I'll come back to it. Let's make our way to the end of this chapter. I'll come back to that. Okay? We'll go into that a little more. Everyone needs to learn about the Knights Templars, at least as much as in our textbooks here, the Devil's Pulpit. Because it'll give you insight into, so law, and banking. Okay, these are the domains of the Knights Templars. Law and banking. That's why they go together. Y'all see it? Okay, let's continue. The clinch and others deduce, while clinch. So here's a third one. So while clinch and others deduce its origin from the institution of Pythagoras. All right? So, which is also much older than the Crusades. So there are the three possible origins, all right? In the discourse of these lectures, however, with the aid of further discoveries, brighter lights, and juster principles of critical research than have heretofore been brought to bear on this curious subject, I, says the author, pledge. The author says, I pledge myself to let the cat out of the bag. Well, we're going to hold the author to this. All right? So he needs to present his evidence. And if he does, we can give him full faith and credit. We can say that what he has presented is credible, and we can rely on it. Okay, if it's credible and we can rely on it, that means what? That means that we acknowledge and separate ourselves from the New Testament, because it's fraud. It's fraud from the beginning. Okay, it is fraudulent from the beginning. Meaning to say that it is a contract, right? New Testament, New Covenant. It is a contract that is unenforceable because it's deceptive, deceitful. It is fraudulent from the beginning. Okay, which means that you don't have to be afraid of the deities, and you don't have to be afraid of the doctrine. But that's your personal decision. Okay? This is why full faith and credit is so important. This is why due process is so important. Okay? The truth will set you free. Let me repeat that. The truth will set you free. Okay? The truth will set you free from fraudulent contracts, amongst other things. Okay, y'all? Okay? Now, the author continues, to leave no part of the mysterious secret unexposed. Okay, so he's going to expose all of it in terms of its origin and what it actually is, which is astrotheology and a hodgepodge of plagiarized rituals, celebrations, philosophies, and sciences coming from different cultures, specifically Hinduism. And y'all know that what we call America now, and India and Hindustan, we are connected. But that's another story. But much of it, a lot of it was stolen from the sciences over in what we call Hindustan or India today. The mind sciences. The Gospels are full, the New Testament is full of the mind sciences. In fact, a lot of the famous authors that y'all know of, they got their information straight out of the New Testament, probably by way of secret societies. You know, I have heard people say that Napoleon Hill got his information out of secret societies by way of his mentor. But no doubt he probably was also in a secret society. There's nothing wrong with that in itself. What's wrong with it is if you're using that information to injure other people, okay? That's the problem. Anyway, so the author is making some huge claims, okay? But to flash resistless conviction on the minds of Masons themselves. Oh, wow. Now, this is something. The author is saying that if you're a Mason, if you are a Mason and you hear the evidence that he's going to present to you, the evidence is so powerful and convincing that even Masons themselves will have to agree. And they know more about the topic than you do if you're not a Mason. Okay? To leave no part of the mysterious secret unexposed, but to flash resistless, in other words, you cannot resist it, right? It's true. Resistless conviction on the minds of Masons themselves. that they are absolved from their oath of secrecy. Y'all see that? That they are absolved from their oath of secrecy, in that they know nothing that we do not know, as well as they. Okay, so that would be what? Fraud. They were taught that they have these secrets, but the author is saying you don't have secrets at all. So that's fraud. So therefore your oath, you don't have to keep that oath. Right? You don't have to give it full faith and credit, and you don't have to keep it because it was done in fraud. You don't have any secrets. So the author is going to expose why. And that they have nothing left, that's the Freemasons have nothing left, either to conceal or betray. So the author is saying in 1831, whatever the Freemasons may have had secret is no longer a secret. And you don't have to keep the oath. Okay, so if you're a Freemason right now and you have a oath to keep, or maybe even a death oath to keep, according to this author, you were never told any secrets. Okay, so they lied to you. So therefore that contract is void. It was void from the beginning. Okay, anyway, let's continue. Page 245. The author says, I shall prove Freemasonry to be the combined result of the Egyptian, Jewish, and Christian superstitions. Y'all hear that? That's his claim. So his claim is very clear. It's not ambiguous at all. I shall prove that Freemasonry is the combined result. In other words, they got some Egyptian science, right? Threw it in a pot. They put some, maybe a half a cup of Jewish, you should know is religion, right? Of some Jewish doctrine into the cup. Now, you should already know that if it's Jewish, it's Hinduism and a whole bunch of other stuff, right? Zoroastrianism. And it got some sprinkles or some dashes of some Christian doctrines, and sprinkled that in the same cup. Shook it all up, and they call it Freemasonry. Okay? So y'all see that if it's true, if the author's claim is true, then they don't have any secrets. Because all you need to do is study Egyptian mythology, Jewish mythology, and Christian mythology, and you'll find out everything that the Freemasons call a secret. Okay, y'all? This is what the author is telling you. But let's continue because there's much more. There's much more. All right? And absolutely identical. So Freemasonry is absolutely identical with the celebrated Eleusinian mysteries of Greece. Freemasonry is identical to the Eleusinian mysteries of Greece. What does that tell you? That tells you if you study the Eleusinian mysteries of Greece, you'll know everything that the Freemasons know. So hence the fraud. Hence the fraud. Freemasonry has no secrets. Okay? Just study the Eleusinian mysteries. But the interesting thing about that is that the Eleusinian mysteries have to also contain the Egyptian, Jewish, and Christian doctrines or superstitions. Y'all see it? So in other words, these things are one and the same, just they put different names on them. Y'all hear? Okay, now let's continue. So it's identically the same with the Dionysian mysteries. So Freemasonry is identical to the Dionysian mysteries. And the Dionysian mysteries they have to be identical to the Eleusinian mysteries, which are identical to the Egyptian, Jewish, and Christian superstitions. Everybody see that? So that the argument or that the debate is the New Testament, is the Levitical priesthood, is the Bible based on Egyptian mythology or sciences? Well, according to this author in 1831, absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. Okay, but let's continue. So Freemasonry is identical to the Dionysian mysteries, or so the Dionysian mysteries are the orgies of Bacchus. The orgies of Bacchus. Now y'all look at the sexual deviancy that you see in the amongst the Jewish religion, amongst the Christian religions. Look at the sexual deviancy. The orgies of Bacchus. And identical to the Christian mysteries of the sacrament of the body and blood of Christ. We just went over that couple classes ago, right? The body and the blood of Christ. The bread and the wine. Okay? The bread and the wine. Also Christ being sacrificed on the cross or the stake or whatever, or strange fruit, whatever y'all want to say. And then his body being removed from the cross one day later. Okay? So Freemasonry is all of that, identical to all of that. So if you want to know about Freemasonry, you want to know their secrets, go study them. Go study one or all. And you'll find that Freemasonry has no secrets, according to this author. Which means that you don't have to keep that oath, because they lied to you. That stuff is not secret. Okay? So in this case, as the author writes, you Freemasons are absolved. You Freemasons are absolved from your oath of secrecy. Okay? Due to fraud. You were deceived. Now, let's continue. Okay, so Freemasonry is identical to the Christian mysteries of the sacrament of the body and blood of Christ, which are absolutely not more different in any respect from each other. All of them are the same. Then the customs and forms of any lodge of Freemasonry in England may be from those of a lodge in any of the nations of the continent. Now I'm curious, what nations of the continent is he talking about? I wish he would have named it, because I don't know what nation of the continent he's talking about. Where, though the language, the words, the persons, and the paraphernalia may be varied, the spirit and purport of the mysteries is precisely the same. In other words, there are going to be cultural differences, right? No matter where you go on the planet, maybe they'll speak a different language. They have different objects, holy objects, or whatever they call them. They may look different, but the purpose and the spirit is exactly the same. And that's what you would expect, right? That's what you would expect. Cultural variance. Okay, now let's continue to the next paragraph. On the evidence hereinafter to be adduced, no one shall be able to doubt that the Eleusinian and Dionysian mysteries, modeled as they were upon the mysteries of Isis and Osiris of Egypt, have passed over into the mysteries of the craft of Freemasonry. Well, there you have it. There you have it. So the original Freemasonry is of Egyptian origin, just like Dr. Ben and others have told us. Okay? The Eleusinian and Dionysian mysteries got all their stuff from Egypt. That's what the author just said. And the Freemasons got all their stuff from the Eleusinian mysteries, the Dionysian mysteries, and the Egyptian mysteries. And of course, Christianity is based upon everything. Right? Now let's continue. Of course, the mysteries of Isis. Isis is Virgo. Virgo. The zodiac sign Virgo. Virgo is Mary, the mother of Jesus. Okay, and Osiris. And Osiris of Egypt. Osiris is the father, right, y'all? Horus is the son, Osiris is the father. If I remember correctly. Okay? So all of that, now y'all keep this in mind. Keep this in mind. That it was the hybrid and or in company with the renegade Moors, maybe the Yacubian club, those who created the hybrids, they converted the sciences, the natural sciences, into religions. In other words, they were the ones who personified natural phenomena into deities. They were the ones who did that. And then wrote it in the book of the law. Converting the book of the law into a religious book. A book of rituals and ceremonies and doctrines and religious doctrines. Jeremiah 8 verse 8. Okay? Is it clear? Now y'all don't believe me. Y'all go out and check out what I'm saying. Check out what this author is presenting. Read Jeremiah 8:8 yourself. Start there. Start there. Everything in the Bible is not the Word of God. Not the God you're thinking of. See, most of you, when you say God, you're thinking about the creator of the boundless universe. The creator of all living things. That's what most of y'all are thinking of. But that is not everything in the Bible is not the absolute Word of God. Read Jeremiah 8 verse 8. Watch the video I did with Sonetta. That's an eye-opener, if you're willing to watch it. All Abrahamic religions are a hoax or a fraud or something like that. Watch that. Anyway, let's continue. Let's continue. And that they were formed, that is, secret societies, were formed at first for scientific purposes. Y'all got that? Y'all got that? I've been saying this for years. And the author agrees. The ancient Egyptians formed these societies, which were actually universities. That's all. Just universities. You go study physics, you go study math, you go study psychology, psychiatry, English, French, German, whatever. Let's just say language. You study languages, medicine, law, just universities. That's all it was. Just universities. Studying nature, Natural law. Okay? Now let's continue. And that secret societies and that universities were formed at first for scientific purposes. For scientific purposes. Though subsequently made the vehicle of the doctrines of the Egyptian mythology. Though subsequently made the vehicle of doctrines of Egyptian mythology. What did that just say? There's a whole lot in that. What does it just say? It just said that when these Moors, these Egyptians, went rogue, they began to personify, to anthropomorphize natural phenomena into gods. Into gods. And then instead of teaching people to observe natural phenomena and study it and then use it to make things and services that are useful and beneficial to uplift civilization, they began to teach people to serve these gods that they created, to worship the gods, to beg the gods to do for them what their ancestors had previously done for themselves using science, acknowledging that they themselves are the gods, the God of their own life, okay, their own Savior. Okay, y'all see the shift? Y'all see the shift in the paradigm? You're your own Savior. You are God. You are the God in your life. You are the Creator in your life. That's why you're giving all of the faculties that you need or that anyone would need to function as God. That's why Psalms 82 says, all of you are gods, sons of the Most High. And J.C. the Christ figure himself said that you are gods. Okay? Now, why would someone take that paradigm, that mindset away from you, other than to enslave you? Other than to make you rely on them. How is that? How is that done? By making themselves the middleman between you and the God. So God won't act in your behalf unless you go through the middleman, who is the priestcraft, who's behind the scenes, the little hybrid in the Wizard of Oz, pulling the levers. Okay? You've been mined, F-U-C-K-E-D, for generations. So who did it? According to Jeremiah 8:8, the scribes wrote it. So we're dealing with renegade or dirty Moors, as we would say in today's language. Okay? Dirty Moors. And when was it done? When was this done? I can only give you my opinion. But this was done, in my opinion, recently. Recently. When we began warring with the hybrids. It was done after, during, or shortly after Yaqub's time, when he created the hybrids. Which was recently, okay? Recently. The hybrids gained control over Europe only recently. Only recently. And they created all of that magnificent science. They converted all of that magnificent science into religious doctrine. I'm talking about the Middle Ages, y'all. Probably somewhere around there. Probably within the last 500, 600 years. If even that all of this was done. But don't take my word for it. Use your own intelligent mind. Okay? So the Egyptians, what I'm saying is that the Egyptians never wrote down any Egyptian mythologies. This was done only recently. So all of y'all Kemetans who study Egyptian mythology, it's not authentic. It's not authentic. It's a remix of natural phenomena. They were not worshiping gods. This notion of religion is a modern concept. Okay? All of this was done recently. Okay, anyway, let's continue. And the secret societies were formed at first for scientific purposes. Those subsequently made the vehicles of doctrines of the Egyptian mythology. In other words, subsequently converted into religion. Converted into religions. Those who were initiated into the Eleusinian mysteries were bound by the most awful engagements to conceal the instructions they received and the ceremonies that they performed. So those are oaths. They had to take oaths. Y'all see that? Ceremonies. Okay? They were bound by the most awful engagements. What were these engagements? I wonder. What are these awful engagements? Did they have to killing someone? Did they have to do sexual things? Humiliating sexual things? What did they have to do, y'all? What did they have to do to keep people quiet? Other than something that they would be so ashamed of they wouldn't want anybody to know. Or they would be facing a death sentence or life in prison if other people found out. So we have to think, right? We have to think. Okay? So this correlates with Jeremiah 8 verse 8, right? These ceremonies, okay? To conceal the instructions they received. Okay, I'm on page 246, scholars. Now let's continue. None were admitted as candidates. Listen, y'all. None were admitted as candidates. In other words, in order to get initiated, none were admitted as candidates until they arrived at a certain age. They had to have a certain amount of experience in life. And particular persons were appointed to examine and prepare them for the rites of initiation. So it looks like they would go and talk to people who know you. See what kind of person you are. Those whose conduct was found irregular were rejected as unworthy of initiation. Significant words were communicated to members such as Giblum, Giblum, or Chibelum, Chibelum, Moabon, Moabon, and Begugal, Begulgal, in modern Masonry. If anyone knows what these are, can y'all let me know? I don't know why he's ambiguous with this, but he says here again, significant words were communicated. So what's the significance of these words? If anybody knows, or if you got time to research it, let me know. Okay, let me know. Grand officers presided over their assemblies. Their emblems were exactly similar to those of Freemasonry, and the candidate advanced from one degree to another. So you go from high school diploma. Some people go get an associate degree. From associate degree, you get a bachelor's degree. From bachelor's degree, you get master's degree. From master's degree, you get PhD. Then you start to specialize and you get subspecialties, okay? Or you get certification in this, certification in that, right? This is what the author is talking about, all right? So you advance to one degree unto another until he received all the lessons of what they called wisdom and virtue, which the priest could impart. So PhD is a terminal degree. Okay, so the priest in ancient times would have been your professor who held a PhD. So you graduate, you get your PhD, or you get your, let's say you get a professional degree like medical doctor or attorney at law. Then you go into medicine, you specialize, right? So that's going to be a medical doctor who maybe has a PhD, or if not, has a specialty and who either have a PhD and a specialty, or no PhD and a specialty, right? So he has the advanced knowledge for that specialty to teach you. And then there are others who have more specific knowledge, more specialized knowledge. That's a subspecialty. Y'all see it? So if you want to get let's say you're a specialist, you want to become a subspecialist, that's a more narrow band of knowledge, but on a specific subject. So you know a lot about a little topic. Okay? Then you go to that subspecialist he's a medical doctor. He may or may not have a PhD, but he has certification that he completed the specialty, right? And the subspecialty. So now he's qualified to teach you. This is what the author is talking about. I hope it's clear. Anyway, now let's continue. So in other words, you learn everything that one professor can teach you or one medical doctor can teach you, at least on paper, right? That he got papers for, and then you move to the next who has more than him. All right? Now, let's continue. The terms Jews, listen y'all, the term Jews, Israelites, and Hebrews were designations. Guess what else is a designation? Nigga, black, Latino, colored, Indian. These are designations. The terms Jews, Israelites, and Hebrews were designations of those who had passed on to the highest dignities, to the highest degrees. Master's degree, PhD, specialist, subspecialist. Those who had passed on to the highest dignities in these holy mysteries. And hence, the epistle or the letter to the Hebrews literally is an epistle or letter to free Masons, that is, or which means to the higher order of those initiated in the craft of the mysteries. Let me repeat that. And hence, the letter to the Hebrews, the epistle to the Hebrews, literally is an epistle, a letter to Freemasons, that is, to the higher order, to the higher degree holders, to those holding a master's degree, for example, to those holding a PhD, for example, to those holding a specialist degree or a subspecialist degree. In other words, let me speak it in clear language. Those holding the degree of Hebrew of Hebrews, martyrers or witnesses, autops, grand nobles, noble grands rather, royal ark, autops, prophets, saints, and apostles. Those who crossed over the wall of partition. Okay, I'm getting this from page 249. Now, am I correct? I'm not a Freemason. I'm only giving you what the author has written. Okay? But the author for sure was a Freemason. And he hasn't lied yet. I haven't caught him in a lie yet. Okay? But what am I saying? You have to use your own critical thinking mind. You cannot rely on me. You have to do your own analysis by asking critical thinking questions and make a determination for yourself. Am I going to give this information full faith and credit or not? Simply meaning, am I going to acknowledge this as credible? Am I going to rely on it? Okay? But you've learned more from this author than you've learned from anybody else. I know that for a fact. I know it for a fact. Unless you are in a secret society. And even still, you probably are learning more about it here than you have there. I know plenty of Freemasons that come through Zion Law School who told me they didn't know anything about this. Now, were they telling me the truth? I have no idea. So y'all, make it do what it do on your own. Practice asking critical thinking questions. Read articles. Watch videos about critical thinking. Okay, learn the skill. It is a skill. But definitely you have the capacity and the faculty to do it. Most of you just you haven't developed it, so you lack the skill. Okay, now let's continue, y'all. Let's let the author speak for himself. And hence the letter to the Hebrews literally is a letter to the Freemasons, that is, to the higher order of the initiated in the craft of mysteries, quote unquote, the free and accepted Masons. The free and accepted Masons. See, you're free. You're not a bondman or a bondwoman. You are free. But what about this word accepted? Let's get to that. Who, if Christians would but read their book with the mind to observe what it is that they do. With a mind to observe what it is that they do. Are you following what Moses said in your Christian rituals and ceremonies and what that preacher or pastor is saying? Or is he doing something else? How would you know? Most Christians don't read. Okay? So, if Christians would but read their book with the mind to observe what it is that they do, not what they say, that they do, okay? With the mind to observe what it is that they do read, which they never do, they would see that the Hebrews, and this epistle to the Hebrews is not addressed to any national community. The letter to the Hebrews, the epistle to the Hebrews, is not addressed to a nation of people. It's not. It's not. Hebrew is not even an ancient Phoenician word. It's not an Ibaryath word. It's a corruption of an Ibaryath word. And remember, it's not only a corruption, actually that's just a small point, but it's dealing with religion. That's the point. It's dealing with religion, not a bloodline people, not a family of people, a bloodline who are attached to a specific landmass through a land grant from the Most High, as it were. In other words, who have been given an estate held in trust by the Most High. Not referring to that, who have a common language, common heritage, in other words, they play the same type of music, they dress similarly, right? They're speaking a same language but different dialect, something like that. Same economy, same foods or variations depending on where they're at. Okay, same culture, similar value system. Most importantly than all of that, they are bound by a constitution. Bound by a constitution, a trust document, defining how they interact with each other. Okay? Defining how they interact with each other. Their intercourse, their commerce. Okay? And nations have treaty relations with other families. So we're not talking about that. We're talking about Hebrews, a religious organization. That's what we're talking about. Make the distinction. Be clear. Don't confuse the two. Okay? The letter to the Hebrews, the epistle to the Hebrews, is to a religious organization, not a nation of people. And this epistle to the Hebrews is not addressed to any national community, to any nation, to the bloodline house of Yasharallah. No, it is not addressed to the Moors, but it is addressed to a mystical and religious fraternity only. Make the distinction. Whose members, y'all, members, not heirs, whose members, not kinfolk, whose members might consist of societies of Freemasons, whose members might consist of societies of Freemasons, may, of men of any and every country. Isn't that the definition of a religion? They share the same religious belief system. They can come from any country. In other words, they can come from any nation or any nation state and join a religion. So they become members of the religion. Whereas a nation is exclusive. You only can be part of that nation by blood, right of blood, by right of blood. By right of blood. And by right of blood, you become an heir. This is your birthrights. If you contract birthright, you're left with rights. These are your rights. Okay, your rights follow your nationality. This is the masculine mental energy of the Hermetic laws. This is the masculine mental energy. This is the father that does not change. The law of your family does not change. It is truth for you. It is truth for you. You You being thought, have no beginning and have no end. You are the Alpha and Omega. Not subject to birth, not subject to death. Okay? This is your masculine mental energy. You are, you exist. In other words, it's what, y'all? I be, I am. I be, I am, I exist. The great I am. Exodus chapter 3. The great I am. Masculine mental energy. The Hermetic laws. And man is thought made manifest from the soil. And I'm speaking about you being God right now. Man is thought made manifest from the soil. Genesis chapter 2, verse 7. Consequently, mores are the substance and subject matter of the law, according to law. Look up land in a Black's Law dictionary, and you'll see that land means more. Mores. Land and mores are synonymous. So it's a well-established principle in law that land is the substance and subject matter of the law. So you can replace land with mores because they're synonymous. Mores are the substance and subject matter of the law. Psalms 82:6. All of you are God's sons of the Most High. The kingdom of God is in you. You are the Christ. You are God. In your higher self. In your lower self, you're the devil. You're also an angel. You're a thought made manifest. Etc., etc., etc. Okay? But the point here is that the letter to the Hebrews is not to you, unless you are a Freemason who has passed over the middle wall of partition and have been chosen to be an eyewitness, to be a perfect man, to be invited into the higher dignities, the higher degrees of Freemasonry. Royal Grand, right? The Royal Ark, Autops, Hebrew of Hebrews, so on and so forth. All right? Anyway, let's get back to the text. And this epistle to the Hebrews is not addressed to any national community, but to a religious, a mystical magic illusions. Mystical illusions. What did Christ say? Although seeing, having eyes to see, they cannot perceive. Although having ears to hear, they cannot understand. Mystical, black magic, the art of making people see and hear things that don't exist. Mystical and religious. Where are we, y'all? Hold on. Let me find my place. Mystical and religious fraternity. That's all it is. That's who it's addressed to. Whose members might consist as societies of Freemasons may, of men of any country, any nation, any language upon earth, as quote unquote, listen to this, quoting of a scripture, as quote, they were dwelling at Jerusalem. Jews, devout men of every nation under heaven. Now we know that's not literal because Jerusalem was a burning waste. At the time this stuff was allegedly written, Jerusalem, all of the promised land had been destroyed like Sodom and Gomorrah, according to Moses. So we know this is not literal. So yes, these religious men who had knowledge about astrotheology, that the Gospels are astrotheology, they were dwelling in Jerusalem. That's an allegory. Okay? These men who held degrees of the highest dignities, or they held higher level degrees like we discussed. That's all it's saying. Okay? The patriarch Abraham, now this is going to hurt a lot of people's feelings. The patriarch Abraham is called, quote unquote, Abraham the Hebrew. Not in designation of his country. So you Hebrew Israelites especially, y'all should know that Hebrew is not a country, right? Hebrew is a bloodline. Almost all Hebrew Israelites know that. So there's nothing new here, but here's what might hurt your feelings. The patriarch Abraham is called, quote unquote, Abraham the Hebrew, not in designation of his country, but of his college degree, the rank he had obtained in these mysterious dignities. Abraham was a Freemason. Abraham was a Freemason. Okay? Let me let y'all deal with that for a minute. If you will only look into the order of the arrangement of the books of the New Testament, pay attention. If you will only look into the order, the sequence, the order of the arrangement of the books of the New Testaments, you will see the epistle to the Hebrews is not arranged with the epistle to the Romans, the Corinthians, the Colossians, the Thessalonians, etc., which designated the Christians inhabiting Rome, Corinth, Colossae, Thessalonica, and so on. The Christians, y'all remember, the Christians is the lowest level. Christians is the very first degree. It's the lowest level degree. But all of those books are arranged together. And who are they to? Christians. The lowest level degree of Freemasons. The author said, pay attention to the order of the arrangement of the books. Okay? And that's what we learn. We learn that these books are written to Christians, grouped together, because they're the lowest degree, the first degree. They don't know anything about astrotheology, or that the Gospels are, in fact, astrotheology, mythology. Let's continue. But the book of Hebrews, it is the book of Hebrews, is set apart by itself, coming after all the epistles that were addressed to particular communities or particular persons, and constituting therefore no epistle, properly so speaking, but a general discourse, the meaning of which would only be understood by the higher order, by those who had attained the higher degrees, by the eyewitnesses, the autops degree, the royal grand degree, the royal arch degree. Okay, those who passed over the middle partition. So it was a general discourse the meaning of which would only be understood by the higher order of Freemasons, who, though they are neither called Freemasons nor Hebrews in any part of the discourse itself. In other words, when you read the book of the letter to the Hebrews, it's not calling them Freemasons. Doesn't even call them Hebrews. Okay? The author continues. They are neither called Freemasons nor Hebrews in any part of the discourse itself, are addressed by a title. So they are addressed by a title which signifies the same thing as Freemasons. And here it is, y'all. Here's the title of Freemasonry. Quote, Holy Brethren, partakers of the heavenly calling. End quote. Holy Brethren, partakers of the heavenly calling. Heaven on earth. Not heaven that y'all might be thinking about. You die and you go to heaven and some spirit creature and all. No, no, no. Holy brothers, honorable brothers, partakers of the heavenly calling. Partakers, takers of the birthright. Heaven on earth. While you are in the curses, Moors, they're enjoying heaven on earth. Deuteronomy 28, 15 through 68. They are enjoying our birthright. They're the gods on earth right now. While you are, I'm speaking to you, personally you, while you're in the curses. While you refuse to return to the Most High and to follow the Most High's instructions. While you refuse to let go of religion. While you refuse to follow the Most High's commandments. Holy brethren, partakers of the heavenly calling, that is, fellow craft Freemasons. Now, I'm not talking about all Masons. I'm talking about those who are injuring, harming, injuring, stealing our birthright. That's what I'm talking about. Not all, because all are not bad. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking specifically, let me repeat that. The author is talking about those Freemasons who are pushing religion. Because religion is a weapon of war. And they're warring against the people. This is what I'm talking about. This is what the author is talking about. Okay? Not all Masons. Just those who are involved in stealing the birthright from the Moors. And not only that, and also using it against everyone else. All right? Who may be innocent. Okay? The initiated into the Dionysian mysteries of Bacchus, who were exclusively the quote-unquote partakers of the heavenly calling. Okay? The initiated into the Dionysian mysteries of Bacchus, who were exclusively called, or exclusively the quote-unquote partakers of the heavenly calling. That's where the author of the epistle to Hebrews got it. They got that phrase, that title, partakers of the heavenly calling. They got it out of the Dionysian mysteries. They just lifted it out and wrote it in the book of Hebrews, or in the letter to the Hebrews. Y'all see it? So there's a piece of evidence right there. They got it straight out of the Dionysian mysteries. Possess the exclusive privilege of building temples and theaters in Asia Minor. They were incorporated at Teos, T-E-O-S, by the kings of Pergamos, and were actually subdivided into different lodges, as the Freemasons are with us this day. So, the Freemasons copied the Dionysians by creating lodges, subdividing their temples, etc., into lodges. And as our Freemasons of the present day is 1831. That's when he gave this lecture. And as our Freemasons of the present day are only Masons in a figurative sense, absolutely, only in a figurative sense. Why? They don't have the substance. They don't have the substance. Can they go out and build a megalithic structure like a pyramid? No. Can they do any of the things that our ancestors did in terms of demonstrating the extremely advanced technology and technological achievements that our ancient ancestors did? Absolutely not. So they're Freemasons in a figurative sense. In other words, in name only. And those who are the Hebrews, but not only that, but y'all, look at the character. Look at the moral character of these Freemasons. The wild sex, the drugs, the excessive use of alcohol, lying to people, the fraud of religion, the fraud of the corporate statutory system and how it's implemented in North America. I can only talk about North America because that's what I know. Colonization. Our ancestors didn't do that, right? Terrorizing people, forcing people to submit to your will through force of military arms or prison. See, they're Masons only in name. They don't have the substance. And those who are the Hebrews, or have attained the highest degree among them, could no more lay a brick and mortar or mount the ladder with the hood on the shoulders than they could dance the tightrope, but are perfectly satisfied with being Masons of the silk apron. Y'all hear that? They can't build anything. Especially, they can build like bridges. We see that, right? But is it at the level of what the original Masons did? No. Do they provide free electricity, wireless electricity, like our ancestors did? No. Not even close. Why? Why? Because the created creature in Genesis chapter 1 has the genetics from a Moabite woman, but the other part comes from the chimpanzee. That's why. Not the same substance. Okay? Not the same substance. Does not have the same capacity that we have. Those of us who are sprung from the soil. Okay? Definitely not the same consciousness. Right? They have the consciousness still of animals. War. Territorial. More concerned with objects than you are with relationships. In other words, materialism. Right? Take your head off for something material. That's chimpanzee behavior. That's animal behavior. Y'all know what it's like? A dog. Now, I'm not calling anybody a dog. I'm talking about the behavior. If you throw a dog a bone, try to take the bone. See if your own dog won't bite you. Right? He's going to fight for that bone, right? And in the passion of trying to keep the bone or the ball, he might bite you. Okay? Or you look at chimpanzees, colonies of chimpanzees. how they war with each other over territory. Well, they're not warring over the territory, they're warring over what's in the territory, the food sources, etc. Our ancestors didn't do that. We didn't have militaries and we didn't have prisons. Dr. Clark will tell you that. So we have a different consciousness. And I'm just telling the facts, the truth. I'm not trying to hurt anybody or belittle anyone. But look at world history since the hybrids have come to power. And look at what they're doing now. Look at what they do now. Everybody knows what happened in 2020. Everybody knows that was made up. And the excuse is always, oh, they do it for money, greed. No, that's consciousness. That's a lower level of consciousness. Right? Men and women sprung from the soil would never even conceive of something like that. Anyway, let's continue. All right. So these people, these are only Freemasons in name. They have no substance, but are perfectly satisfied with being Masons of the silk apron. Right? You put on the uniform and then you feel proud of yourself, right? And the silver trowels. So the Masonic character of this epistle to the Hebrews, as indicated to absolute demonstration by Masonic metaphors. So there are Masonic metaphors in the epistle to the Hebrews. And figures of speech. Okay, so one of the things that I teach at Zion Law School, if y'all come to my classes, you'll learn how to evaluate the authenticity of a document by metaphors that are used and figures of speech. Also, words. Words, if they are used out of chronology. In other words, the word, let's say the word may be only 100 years old or 300 years old, but they're putting it in the context of something or using it for something that they say happened 5,000 years ago. See, as a scholar, you need to be able to see that and understand what it means, and based upon what it means, what the intent of the author was for using it. Okay? All right? So the Masonic character of this epistle to the Hebrews is evidenced by absolute demonstration. Pick it up and see it yourself with your eyes. Concrete evidence. By the Masonic metaphors and figures of speech mixed up with the Bacchus or Bacchanalian tropes. So you'll see references that have to do with Bacchus. And allegories which constitute the subject matter of that piece. Y'all got it? You'll see content, words and phrases, expressions, metaphors that come straight out of or that speak to, you smell Bacchus. Okay? You smell Freemasonry, all up in the letter of Hebrews. Quote unquote, for every house, says the master of the lodge, quote unquote, is built by some, in parentheses we see Mason. But he that built all things is God. For every house is built by a mason, by a builder. But he that built all things is God, is Zeus, is Odin, is Woden, capital G-O-D. Thus, in the full vanity of the Masonic spirit, attempting to prove that God, capital G-O-D, himself was a free Mason. God himself was or is a builder. While Freemason Abraham, quote unquote, looked for a city which had foundations, whose builder and maker is God. I don't need to say anything about that, do I? Cities are built. You need a good foundation to build a structure on, right? That these Freemasons, that is, the higher grades of them, the higher degrees of Freemasons, the Hebrews understood what was meant by Moses and Christ and Christianity to a very different tune from any which our clergy have kept in concert. In other words, these higher degree Freemasons, when you say Moses to them, Christ to them, Christianity to them, they understand something completely different. In other words, they got a different domain of knowledge on those three topics: Moses, Christ, and Christianity. You don't know nothing about it. Those of us who are on the outside of the house, have been given religious dogma. Right? We know only what we've been taught is clean and pure. Christ crucified. That's all we know. But they, the Hebrews, that mystical religious organization, Freemasonry, and those who have achieved the highest degrees, the Hebrews, the highest dignitaries, the highest designations, they know the secrets to the mysteries of the kingdom of the heavens. Why? Christ said he reserved the knowledge or the secrets of the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of God, for those who are in the inner house, those who have passed over the middle partition. Y'all see it? Can y'all see it? So you're talking about Moses and Jesus and Christ and Christianity, and what you're saying don't mean nothing. What matters is what they know and what they say. Because every time you open your mouth, everything you say can and will be used against you. Everything you say can and will be used against you. That's why you're in bondage and they are what? They are free. Not only are they free, they are free and accepted. They are brethren, holy brethren, partakers of the heavenly calling. And you are in bondage, a goyim. But you don't have to be. You can return to the Most High. You can follow the Most High's commandments. Okay? And get the blessings. You get your birthright back. Okay? Then you will be the partaker of the heavenly calling, or heaven on earth. You will be living heaven on earth. In other words, role reversal, right? Role reversal. You, yes, you, I'm talking to you. You reclaim your estate. Okay? You get the blessings. And those who are oppressing you, they get the curses. They get the punishments that you are currently living in. It's a reversion of estate. Reversion of estate. Reclaim your birthright. Reclaim your estate. Okay? Take back your birthright. This is what's happening here. It's all about birthright. Okay? If you want heaven on earth, You want to live or have heaven on earth? Return to the Most High and follow the Most High's commandments, which, stated differently, follow natural law. Live rhythmically, harmonically with natural law. That's all it is. And in doing that, you'll be operating in the higher self. You'll be doing everything that's required. Okay? That's all you have to do. You don't need to be on your knees praying. You don't need to be stressing about your sex life and all of this nonsense. But enough on that. Let's continue. That these Freemasons, that is, the higher grades of Freemasons, the Hebrews, understood what was meant by Moses and Christ and Christianity to a very different tune from any which our clergy have kept in concert. Okay? Is betrayed by that curious exhortation which opens the 6th chapter. He's talking about the 6th chapter of the letter to the Hebrews, in which the apostle calls on his Freemasons to, listen to this, y'all. The apostle calls on his Freemasons to leave the doctrine of Christ. Leave the lower degree. Leave the doctrine of Christ, which I, as earnestly as the apostle, do most sincerely call you to do. In other words, study more, learn more. Advance to the higher degrees of Freemasonry. Remember, the lowest degree of Freemasonry is Christianity, right? It's Christian, rather. It's Christian. So leave the doctrine of Christ. Leave Christianity. He continues. The author continues, which I, as earnestly as the apostle, do most sincerely call you to do. You cannot leave it too soon, says the author. The sooner you have done with the doctrine of Christ altogether, the better. And I agree with the author. I agree with the author. The sooner you leave this doctrine of Christ, the better off you are. For, as the apostle truly says, it is baby's meat. Well, the Christian is the lowest degree of Freemasonry. It is baby's meat. It's also, in reality, what? A fairy tale. And it's also fraudulent. It's mere milk and lollipop for the nursery. It's like candy for a baby. A sensible man ought to be ashamed of it. That's right. That's right. Once you realize how big of a fool you've been made out of by believing in Christianity, you'll be ashamed to ever go back to it. Okay? But right now, most of y'all are scared. You've been traumatized by Christian doctrine. You're scared to death to even think or question. That ought to tell you something right there. If someone loves you, why wouldn't they want you to use your mind? Search and see whether or not they truly love you, whether or not they truly exist. Right? Why is this deity threatening to punish you? Simply for researching, right? Quote unquote, therefore, leaving the doctrine of Christ and all such like milk and water spoon meat for fools, let us go into perfection. Remember, let us go into perfection. When you get into when you're invited to the higher degrees, autops, noble grand, royal ark, you are then called what? A perfect man and an eyewitness. Therefore, leaving the doctrine of Christ, leaving the lowest or the first degree, let us go into perfection. Advance to the higher degrees, where you learn that Christianity is astrotheology. As quote unquote free and accepted Masons. Quote, to the praise and glory of his grace, covenant of grace, the autumn equinox, Mother Earth, Mama Earth gives you her bounty, heaven on earth, everything that you need, right? Everything that you need to survive and thrive through winter, to enjoy spring, to chillax in summer. You still got enough to go into the next harvest still with a surplus, right? Whatever a man soweth, he will reap during harvest time. Quote, to the praise and glory of his grace, wherein he hath made us accepted in the beloved, end quote. First Ephesians 6, quote, wherefore we labor, end quote, says the apostle, that, quote, whether present or absent, we may be accepted of him, end quote. Thus, most accurately defining the meaning of the word Hebrew. Let me stop here. Accepted is a code word, is a metaphor for Freemasonry. Foundations, city, builder, maker, temple, metaphors, code words for Freemasonry. Thus most accurately defining the meaning of the word Hebrew. Listen. Thus most accurately defining the meaning of the word Hebrew to be none other than precisely that which obtains at our Masonic lodges. In other words, they're using this definition in the Masonic lodges. To this day, quote, well, it's not a quote, it says, a Hebrew is a free and accepted Mason. A Hebrew is a free and accepted Mason, as the word Hebrew in the first of all documents in which it is found. It's first found at Genesis chapter 14, verse 13. Literally signifies, we here have two words, one in, well, I'll show it. Literally signifying one who has passed over or through the lower degrees. One who has passed over or passed through the lower degrees. This is page 247. Can y'all see that? One who has passed over or through the lower degrees. The link to the free PDF for the Devil's Pulpit is in the description area of this video, along with links to my Ancient Ibaryath books, okay, and my classes, live and online, a Zoom class, and also a streaming online class available 24/7. 101 Ancient Ibaryath is the streaming class, and 506 the Curses course. I teach that course every Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, that's a live online class. I teach it through Zoom. Now look, y'all. The author says, and I'm just going to go through some quotes. Holy brethren, partakers of the heavenly calling, that is, fellow craft Freemasons. They got that out of the mysteries of Dionysus. Okay? Let's continue. Quote, for every house, end quote, is built by some, in parentheses, mason. For every house is built by someone, but he that built all things is God. Built, a house, building, Freemasonry, right? Chief cornerstone, Christ is the chief cornerstone. That's the highest degree, okay? Attempting to prove that God himself was a Freemason, while Freemason Abraham, quote, looked for a city, cities are built, which had foundations. You need a strong foundation to build a house or a building, right? Whose builder and maker is God. So they're claiming that God is a Freemason. Let's continue. The author writes, this is coming from an exhortation in Hebrews chapter 6, in which the apostle calls on his Freemasons to leave the doctrine of Christ. Christian is the lowest degree. Don't stay in kindergarten your whole life. Don't stay in preschool. Don't stay in preschool your whole life. Don't stay a Christian your whole life. Get more advanced degrees. Dignify yourself with more advanced degrees. Okay? So again, the writer in the 6th chapter of Hebrews, in which the apostle calls on his Freemasons to leave the doctrine of Christ, which I, as earnestly as the apostle, do most certainly call on you to do. You cannot leave it soon enough, according to the author. Why? Because it's all fairy tales. It's not meant for you. It's not meant for you. This letter was written to Freemasons, to a mystical religious organization, those who had achieved the highest levels of Freemasonry. So since it is not for you, leave it. Set it down, leave it alone. Go about your business. He continues, you cannot leave it soon enough. Why? You're on the outside of the house. It is meant to put you in bondage. It is meant to make you a slave, connotatively speaking. It is meant to put you in civilly dead status under the jurisdiction of the Dogon, of Oannes. Okay, to make you civilly dead, make you black. Black according to law is death, right? Civil death. Black according to science is also death. Necrotic, necrosis. Okay? You cannot leave it sooner. Okay? The sooner you leave it, according to the author, the better off you are. When you leave it, hopefully you come back and you return to the Most High. Keep His commandments. Get your birthright back. Start being honorable. Right? For as the apostle truly says, it is Christianity is baby's meat. It is mere milk and a lollipop for babies in the nursery. A sensible man ought to be ashamed of being a Christian. This is the author's point. Not a hybrid, a man. Make the distinction. There's mankind and then there are men. Quote, therefore, leaving the doctrine of Christ, end quote, and all such milk and water, spoon meat for fools, let us go into perfection. Perfection is a Freemason term. Those who get the knowledge that the Christianity, actually all the religions in the West are astrotheology, period. Once you achieve the degree, again, noble grand, royal ark, autops, you are said to be a perfect man. So let us go into perfection. Get out of kindergarten. Move to the higher degrees, higher grades. Go to perfection. Go through all of those degrees until you get chosen. Chosen into the Hebrew degree, the Israelite degree, autops, noble grand, royal ark, and then you start to learn the truth that the Gospels are astrotheology. Jesus never lived. Now you're free. You become free, a free man, right? You become free, okay? To the praise and glory of his grace wherein he has made us accepted in the beloved, accepted in the mystical religious organization, accepted by other Freemasons. Yeah, you're good, you know everything, we know we're going to teach you, we accept you. And now you can participate in heaven on earth, all right? You can have more of these Moors' birthright, okay? You're living rent and mortgage free, utility free, right? You learn all of these processes. You got heaven on earth. Okay, y'all? Let's continue. In other words, you're not paying to live. You're living and enjoying life. You're not being hit with bills of attainder, you Moors. That's why they do it. Bills of pains and suffering. That's why they do it. They got it easy. Right? No mortgage, no utilities, no nothing. Okay? These are your dirty Moors. And these are the hybrid free and accepted Moors too. They're all living large, benefiting. Once they get to that, once they become free and accepted. Okay? Brethren, holy brethren, partakers of the heavenly calling. See that? You got called into the higher dignitary, the higher degrees. You were called in, you were selected in. Okay? Now you got a bigger chunk of the Moors' birthright to enjoy. Okay, y'all? So Ephesians 1:6, quote unquote, wherefore we labor, says the apostle, that whether present or absent, we may be accepted of him. See that? No matter where you are, you're still accepted. You can be in South America, you can be in Europe, you can be in Australia. You're still a free and accepted Mason. And you're going to get all of the benefits, right? Let's continue. As the word Hebrew, in the first of all documents in which it is found, Hebrew is first found in Genesis chapter 14, verse 13, literally signifying one who has passed over or through the lower degrees. Y'all see that? If that don't make sense, I don't know what does. Islam to all the Moors. Thanks everyone for spending your evening with me. If you're in North America, if you're in the eastern part of the world, your afternoon. Thanks everyone for your support, buying my books, subscribing to my classes. I would like more people to come on Saturday. If y'all can adjust y'all schedule, come on Saturday to the class I teach on Zoom. You'll get more of this kind of information, but more in depth. Much more in depth, okay? The link to the class is in the description area of this video, 506 The Curses course, okay? 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you read the course description. Also, thanks for buying my books. I appreciate that. And you can give my books as a gift to your kinfolk, friends, etc. I would appreciate that very much. Islam to all the Moors and Shalom.